Hey, writing groups 3, 4, and 5. Today we're going to talk about the past perfect tense when we are writing. So this is one of the things I noticed on your spring break life work that some of us had a hard time filling in. So let's go over it right now. We know that past tense verbs are verbs that show an action that happened before or in the past. So basically I have three tenses. Verbs happen in the present, verbs happen in the past, or verbs happen in the future. Past tense shows me that things happened in the past, be that the long time ago past, 2 hours ago past, or 1 minute ago past. It still is in the past. For most past tense verbs, you just have to add on an ed. Now, there are a bunch of irregular past tense verbs as well that we need to pay attention to. For us today, we're going to talk about past perfect. A past perfect verb shows that an action in the past happened before another action in the past. To form a past perfect, all you have to do is add had to the past tense of a verb. So let's take a look at what that looks like in action. Let's take a look at the past perfect using the verb finish. Notice I did two things here. First, I've got positive, negative, and then using it in a question. If I want to put the verb finish in a past perfect in a positive sense, I'm going to add the word had to it, and then I'm going to add ed to finish to make it the past tense of finished. Finished. I had finished. You had finished. And all the way down. Notice for negative, I just insert the word not in between the had and the finished. I had not finished dinner when the phone rang. And then for questions, I put the had first. Had I finished? Had you finished? Had they finished? Etc. Let's take a look at some examples here. I've included both a verb in the past perfect and a verb in the past tense, and we want to identify both. So let's look at my first sentence here. She had finished breakfast when the phone rang. I need a past perfect and then a past tense verb. If you're looking and if you notice, the past perfect should be like what we just saw before, had finished. My past tense verb there is rang. Thinking back to my definition and my reason that I use the past perfect, I'm describing the fact that she was eating breakfast, she hadn't finished it yet, and then at a very specific moment in the past, the phone rang. So the past perfect helps me set that stage and helps describe what she was doing in the past. Let's take a look at this next sentence together and see if we can do it too. Again, there's a past perfect and a past tense verb in there. If you read it and you notice Great Britain had been in war, there's your past perfect. I'm describing the fact that they had been in war for a few months when the bombing of London began. Began is my past tense verb. So I'm setting the stage by describing that Great Britain had been in war for a few months and then at a very specific moment, the bombing of London began. If I look at my little chart down below, it might help us figure out the past perfect and the past. Notice I've got the past, the present, and the future. The past perfect comes before the past and is describing things that happen until that very specific moment in the past when something happens. And so if I'm describing what's going on, I use the past perfect. If I want to tell you a very specific thing that happened once in the past, I'm going to use just a regular past tense verb. Alright, so both the past perfect and the past are needed to add detail into our narrations of events that have happened to either us or other people in the past, but they're also needed for talking about the history of a person, place, or thing. So they're really important for writing in humanities. If you're going to write about anything historical, I guarantee you're going to use the past perfect in the past. So thinking forward to your writing assignment about whether globalization is positive or negative, I bet you're going to need both. Let's take a look at 4 examples together before you do some examples on your own. So I've got a sentence here and I need to fill in the correct past perfect verb in the blank. Eric and Kimberly blank 4 years before getting married. Let's take a look. I've got dated, will have dated, had dated, or have dated. If you put Eric and Kimberly had dated 4 years before getting married, you are correct. I've got had, and then I added an ed to the end of date to make the past of the word date. Had dated makes it past perfect. Let's take a look at another one. The jury blank every detail before reaching a decision. Will have examined, examined, have examined, had examined. If you said had examined every detail before reaching a decision, you are correct. The jury had examined every detail. Had, and then ed on the end of examined makes it past perfect. Let's try another one. My teacher blanked us 3 chapters, but I only finished one of them. Will have assigned, had assigned, has assigned, or assigned. If you said had assigned here, you are correct. Had, and then assigned has an ed on it, making it past. The had makes it past perfect. I really hope this statement isn't true for any of you guys, that your teachers assigned you 3, but you only finished 1. Come on, go beyond Z. Let's try one more. Miss Swanson up for many hours before drinking a cup of coffee. Take a look at your answers. And again, if you got had been, you are correct there. Miss Swanson had been up for many hours before drinking a cup of coffee. Now, some of your wheels might be turning, thinking, well, I've seen things like will have been and has been on my life work over spring break. And that's right, you have. Just like there is the past perfect, there's also the present perfect and the future perfect. And we'll come back and talk about those verb tenses later on. What I want you to do right now is go ahead and fill in the questions on your Google form. Make sure you answer them carefully and then click submit so we can talk about them at the end of class. Okay? Thanks.